Alvarez came on in relief. And Alonso lines one to left. Forget about it. Deep into the seats. And Alonso jumps all over it. The Mets back on top 3-2.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shea Station podcast. It is episode 107. It is Sunday, October 9th, bright and early, and the Mets season is not over yet. They won last night to force a do-or-die Game 3, the only Game 3 of the entire wild card weekend, so all eyes are on Mets Padres tonight. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, aka Jolly, joining me, who got back at 1 a.m. last night after doing post-game right in front of Citi Field, is Jerry Blevins. Jerry, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little sleepy, but I'm excited to get this going. It's a big win. I can't believe the Mets are the only Game 3.
I know, very shocking.
No drama anywhere else. So leave it to the Mets to be the only dramatic team.
I mean, I give it up for your Mariners for sure, making that 8-1 comeback. I thought we were getting Game 3 there for sure. The Phillies took care of business as well. And the Guardians played 15 innings of scoreless baseball before Oscar Gonzalez had his moment. Very nice.
Yep, that's a lot of people back home in Ohio feeling real good about those Guards.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets are going to get the full spotlight tonight. Chris Bassitt versus Joe Musgrove. And last night, despite the Phillies game starting an hour after ours, they've managed to finish before us because that was maybe one of the longest Mets games I've seen all year, and it definitely felt like it.
It was the longest regular 9-inning postseason game in Mets history. They lapped us in the 7th too. It wasn't like they beat us at the end. They passed us in the 7th inning. Yeah,
there is a ton to talk about from this game. We won't do a traditional recap and stuff like that, but the offense wakes up. The bullpen looks sharp. Buck Showalter kind of takes some attention for some interesting bullpen management. And Jacob deGrom at times didn't look like he had his best stuff, but still finds a way and looks very reminiscent of that elimination game back in 2015 with a very similar final line, which a lot of people were posting on Twitter, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think he had one less hit or something.
Yeah,
that 2015 outing in LA, it was that was Jake without any stuff. That was all guts. That was guts, Jake.
Like that.
We got a little bit of both yesterday. We got the first couple of hitters, like the first inning, throwing 102. He was the untouchable, new age deGrom that we found, the Cy Young winner. And then once he gave up that home run to Grisham on a really good pitch, he kind of turned a switch. I think he got a little bit scared of his fastball and started to be a little bit more slider centric. Well, not even a little bit. He started to just basically go slider heavy. Yeah. Came up clutch in some big spots. He got Machado in the 3rd with runners in scoring position. In the 5th, he went Machado and Bell, big strikeouts. Gutsy performance. He had 90 pitches after 5, and he went back out and had maybe the most dominant inning since the 1st and the 6th. 9 pitches, cleaned house. I thought he was so good in the 6th, I thought he might come out for the 7th to go deGrom Diaz to close the game. But he had 6 innings of 2-run ball. And again, very encouraging, man. We saw competitive Jake. We saw a glimpse of pure dominance. And, he gave up the lead a couple of times. We didn't have a shutdown inning. But then he turned it on, man. It was good. I again, very encouraged by what I saw from him.
Yeah, I don't think the moment was too big. You never see Jake pop off for really anything, even in his World Series start. But he looked really composed. I was definitely alarmed when we had, I think it was the 4th or the 5th inning, where it was slider, a couple changeups here and there. He said his best changeup of the night got rocked by Bell, so he just kind of abandoned that pitch altogether. But the slider was working, and I think he kind of calibrated himself with those 5th inning strikeouts. In the 6th inning, might have been his best inning of the entire night. And then a lot of attention went to Buck deploying Edwin Diaz in the 7th inning, which I think was probably the right move to try and not get that lineup to turnover for the 8th inning. I think there was kind of always going to be multi-innings for Diaz. And then a lot of people were pointing to the Mets jumping out to that 7-2 lead, but Buck having Edwin sit for 45 minutes and then go back out there. But he didn't look phased at all because of it.
I mean, he walked a guy. He was that sharp, but he wasn't that sharp in the seventh either. He was fine. I liked him going into the seventh because they had 8-9-1. So Grisham, who hit a home run off Scherzer and deGrom, was up. And then Profar was batters who dominated, who had a hit against Jake. And that's when he went like heavy slider there. And he hung one. He should have thrown a fastball there. That was like the only, he talked about it in his post-game interview. He said that was the one he regretted. So yeah, of course, Diaz, bring him in because you've got 8-9-1, those guys that I mentioned. Then you have Soto, Machado, Bell. So those are the 2 innings that you want to get. He gets through the seventh, pretty quickly, and then the epic 7th inning rally that the Mets offense put together. I think emphasized by the McNeil bases loaded, 2-run double where he's pointing to the dugout as he's getting to first. And then he had a long delay, and I didn't agree with bringing him back out. If you can't protect a 5-run lead with 6 outs, it's going to be a long postseason for Edwin Diaz because he's going to get worn out. But like you said, he's been saved up all month, especially for this reason. And so he said he felt great. He tried to talk Buck into leaving him in the 8th, but Lugo comes in. Or not Lugo, but Ottavino comes in, gets a good out, and then falls apart in the 9th. But yeah, I liked it. I liked what I saw from Diaz. I liked Buck's idea and concept. I wouldn't have brought him out back for the 8th after that long delay and that bigger lead, but you never want to lose the game in an exciting game like that and think, I wish I would have left Edwin Diaz in more.
Right.
And
I
if
think
there's a doubt,
I think Buck probably just learned his lesson from 2016. Instead of, leaving the guy out there, let's just use him when we can. I do want to talk about the Mets lineup though, because this was a 2022 Mets game that we haven't really seen against a good team in a long time. They tortured Blake Snell. Snell, honestly, I think didn't have his best stuff, but is still a good pitcher that can find his way through that kind of outing. But Snell ends up walking 6 batters in 3 innings. The Mets must have worked 6 or 7 10-pitch at-bats across the board. They tortured Morejon as well for that 7th inning rally, and it was a lot of the first playoff moments for a lot of guys here. McNeil gets that big double that you mentioned. Pete Alonso looked so much better than game 1, a lot less anxious, much more disciplined at bats. I think he got to even in his strikeout, and I think the 4th inning, still worked a 3-2 count, worked the pitches a lot, and looked much more comfortable at the plate. And with the Nick Martinez home run, he kind of just found his pitch. It was below the strike zone, and just I think was ready for it, sitting on it. And Alonso looked great. Lindor had that 1st inning home run. McNeil was 0 for 3 going into that double, but I still think took good at bats. But the big one was Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo was absolutely ready for the moment. Came up with some huge hits for the Mets on a night where some other guys in the lineup didn't really have their stuff. He was essential.
Yeah, I mean, he got it right off the bat with the base hit. He had 3 hits all the other way, one a big RBI, extra bases. He looked good, locked in at the plate. It was that home run that Lindor hit right off the bat. Jake had that shutdown inning big time in the first, came in just better than everybody. And then Lindor with a huge home run, smooth swing. It felt good in that 1st inning, and then Jake gives up the home run to Grisham, which was a shocker. I think it kind of shocked the system, but offensively, these guys answered. Pete with a huge home run had this basically real short to the ball swing, nothing too big. Whereas, like you said, the first night he was trying too hard and he backed it down. And then McNeil, who's been stinging the ball, hit some really good line drives. Grisham robbed him of a hit, stuck to the plan, and got ahead and made him pay. Left on left there too with Morihone. Stuck with it, and he
Yeah.
very impressed by the whole lineup. It was very good stuff.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about letting the crowd get into it because I think they were taken out of it immediately when Jerks and Profar swung on the first pitch of game one and got a single, and then the home run from there, and then the Padres just kind of piled on. deGrom dominated in the first. The crowd was alive. Nimmo got on. It resulted in that double play, but Lindor's home run, I think, permanently electrified that crowd, and they were loud last night. And I do think even though Marte himself didn't have a good game, Marte back in the two hole, I think, restructured the lineup in a great way. I think Lindor back in the three, McNeil towards the middle of the lineup in those runners in scoring position situations. This lineup looked a lot more like the Mets that we were used to. And Marte himself, we should talk about, did not have a great game, 0 for 5 with 8 men left on base in his at-bats. But I just think that him in the two hole solidifies this Mets lineup a little bit more.
It was right. It was really nice to see the shuffle to move McNeil down, move Canna back. Canna protected. He hasn't had a great, couple of weeks stretch, but he worked a 10 pitch at bat right after Pete did. But I'm not sure Marte's healthy, man. Enough because he hit a couple of balls and they just kind of died. He's got that strength in that finger to really grip the bat, but we'll see, man. Hopefully the Mets win tonight and he can get maybe a day off here or there, but he's pushing it and it helps. He's such an integral part of the team right now, especially to be able to shuffle that lineup. You can see it. You can see it affected him. Jake made a great play. Marte threw the ball, and I don't think he's ever thrown a ball like that. He launched it, and Jake was late picking up the bases, but he, is such a good athlete. He makes a barehanded play. But Marte's a dynamic player, so I hope he's healthy enough to stay in the lineup. I think it's really important for the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, he sailed that throw from right field. As soon as he threw it, I could see how high it was, and I was like, "This is going to be bad news. I hope it just doesn't go into the stands." I was like, "Ooh, yeah." And I mean, this could have easily been a 2 for 5 game for Marte if you don't have a solid glove over there and Machado kind of snaking up those ground balls to third. One guy we should talk about was a guy that I think both of us were not expecting to see in the lineup last night, but kind of got the job done. I mean, his first at bat was a 3-pitch strikeout, and the groans and boos ensued. But Darren Ruff worked a walk, worked a hit by pitch. Terrence scored, pinch ran. I think that's as much as you can ask for from Darren Ruff, considering what you've gotten so far.
I mean, that's definitely a positive. People were pumped in the stadium. He got hit by a pitch because we're in the truck outside of Citi Field, and it's like probably 15-second delay.
Yeah.
So we can hear the crowd go bananas. We're like, did Ruff hit a home run? And then we're waiting
he
for
gets
the
hit
action.
on the
He
hand.
gets hit. It was therapeutic maybe for the Mets to be able to cheer for Ruff there.
Yeah.
I think he looked a little bit better. It was probably nice for him to hear some cheers. But the Mets as a whole, that offense, this is the style of baseball we've been looking for. Really good starting pitching. Bullpen comes in the clutch situation. Good defense, solid running, and grinding at bats, getting to Blake Snell. Blake Snell's a great pitcher, and that's how you play Mets baseball, to grind down a pitcher like that. They made him throw a ton of pitches, made him come to them in the strike zone, and they did a great job, man. Very, very impressed. It was a really good brand of Mets baseball that they played.
The pitching deserves some credit for stabilizing this middle of the order, because Juan Soto came out, hit the ball hard, I think, every at bat except for his one lone strikeout. But Machado goes 0 for 4 with 3 Ks, leaves 4 on base. Bell goes 1 for 4, 5 left on base, although he rocked a couple foul balls as well. The big one for me was Cronenworth, Drury, and Kim were non-factors. Combined, they go 0 for 12 with 5 strikeouts, and they leave 5 on base. And that's a big credit to the Mets and their bullpen as well. Ottavino, before that shaky ninth inning, put Drury aside with ease. But then he does hit a batter, walk three, a run comes home, and Seth Lugo, I think was probably ready for that moment. He said it was like, that's the little kid stuff you dream of, bases loaded, tying run at the plate against Josh Bell. And he was ready for the moment. I mean, Lugo is our lefty reliever, I guess. He was used in the big spot there. It does raise a question, though, because Lugo did, I think, only throw 4 pitches, but he did pitch game 1 as well. How available do you think Seth Lugo is for tonight?
No question that he's available.
Good.
Same with Diaz. Ottavino probably 9 through 30 pitches. He's probably down today. But yeah, that was a huge spot. And Josh Bell struggles against the curveball. Whenever I faced him, obviously he's a switch hitter, but I literally just threw curveballs in the zone because he could not get to him. And that was the game plan. Lugo threw 3 curveballs and mixed in a 97, setup pitch, clutch. That as soon as that first curveball dropped in, I go, uh-oh, he's locked in.
Yeah.
So he'll be available today. Everybody in the bullpen but Ottavino. Even Ottavino in an emergency would be available. But yeah, he had that huge out. Ottavino had that huge out. And then, man, that last walk was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't,
I think he had him
to
1-2.
Machado. He had him 1-2. But that 3-2 pitch, he could have. And Machado crushes sliders. He wanted to get him to chase.
Machado was mad that he got walked too. He wanted to pitch the hit.
I bet, because you can't walk him there, because if he hits a home run, you're still up 1.
Right.
And now you bring the tying run to the plate. It was a pretty bad strategic move.
Well, the Mets can never make it easy, man. That's kind of the whole staple of the franchise.
Especially that bullpen.
Yeah, especially that bullpen. By the way, Josh Bell 0 for 4 with a strikeout against Jerry Blevins. So there you go. You're right. Easy stuff.
Flipping curveballs.
No big deal. So yeah, the big boppers, our MVPs hit home runs. Brandon Nimmo has a great game. Ruff gets on twice. Diaz does his thing. Came back out after 45 minutes, struck out a batter. And Jacob deGrom gets the job done. The Mets get a huge win in game 2. Kind of a dominant win up until that last little scare at the end there. And they do force game 3, the only wildcard series to go to game 3. We are going to give you the probables, the batter pitcher matchups, all that. But first, I got to tell you guys about our friends over at True Classic who are hanging out with us during this playoff run, which I absolutely love. They make t-shirts that actually fit, guys. And you guys know this by now because you're listening every day. You're in tune with Shea Station. Whether you're jacked or, a little bit on the chubby side, nothing wrong with that. Finding the right t-shirt can be incredibly frustrating, but True Classic is coming in with some help, and they've got a code Shea. Ever heard of it? 25% off at trueclassic.com. True Classic is made with every man in mind. You get that quality luxe fit. Ooh, I like that. And the softness you've always wanted but never received from those sandpaper excuses for t-shirts. I love this ad read. These things are so soft you'll actually want to wear them, not just have to wear them. So it's for men for all body sizes. They have plenty of sizes to choose from as well, plenty of colors, and they're the most comfortable t-shirts you can possibly find. Long body, triple XL sizing, whatever you need, True Classic probably has it ready for you. So it's about time you get your fit together. Upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com with code Shea. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. So 25% off. Get yourself some free shipping too with that big bulk order and use code Shea. Thank you to True Classic for helping us out. And tonight, I think Chris Bassitt needs to be comfortable in his True Classic t-shirt as well, because he's got the biggest game of his career coming up.
That's very true. This is a big one. I expect him to be better. You put a note in here following a 5+ earned runs, that Chris Bassitt is following 5+ earned runs. Chris Bassitt is 3-0 in 4 games with 26 innings pitched and only 1 earned run given up, spreading 10 hits over 26 innings. That's a very impressive comeback because he's able to make adjustments. He had that rough first start in San Diego. That was like the culmination of all of his bad starts in a row. That was one where he said, I have no idea what's going on. And then he bounced back and was great and consistent. And then he had the rough one in Atlanta. And he said he learned from it. He said he was trying too hard to step up. Sometimes you got to take a step back and remember who you are, what you do as a pitcher, and just do your thing versus trying to be bigger than the moment. Just be big in that moment. Don't try to be too much. And so I think a lot of guys learn from that Atlanta series, and I think Bassitt's one of them. So I expect him to go out there and be crispy. But I also do expect a quick hook. If things get, obviously this is it, do or die. If things get a little bit shaky, with Joely Rodriguez coming off the roster because of his shoulder, who's going to also miss the CS if the Mets, or the DS if the Mets get there. You have Taijuan Walker right there. So I expect if Chris Bassitt gets into trouble early, they'll go to a bullpen guy and then let Taijuan Walker come in if it's really early in the game. They have open communication. That was the one thing Diaz talked about. Buck came up to him before the game yesterday and was like, "Hey, we're going to use you early if need be. You're going to hit that part of the lineup, at whatever state or whatever spot in the game that is, and you're going to be our guy." So he was prepared. They're very good at communicating. So if it's going to be Taijuan quickly after Bassitt, he'll be ready, man, and he should be, because they'll let him know.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Bassett's numbers against the Padres on the season aren't great, but I think it is skewed by that one start that you mentioned before. Kind of the low point of Bassett's season, really, that and the Giants start in that crazy 13-12 game. He's 10 in the third innings, 9 earned runs, 17 strikeouts, 2 walks, but an 0-2 record. But his second start against them in July, he went 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 11 strikeouts. He did lose that game because I believe Darvish was on the bump on the other side. But Bassitt in September was kind of, on and off a little bit, facing some mediocre teams, and then the Braves at the end, 33 in the third innings, 3.78 ERA. But I do like I had to dig up that stat because one of our listeners, Daniel Sepulveris, pointed out that Bassitt is really, really good after kind of a bad start. And I was like, I wonder if there's any metrics to that. And it turns out there is. Every single time Bassitt gets roughed up, he comes back the next time and really, really does well. And I think he's been thinking about that Padres start for a while because they hit him around hard, and he responded really well his next start. But I do think we might get some Taijuan Walker tonight. I'm perfectly comfortable with letting Bassitt face the order once and then Taijuan face the order once, because their numbers are a lot better compared to facing the order a second and even a third time. And you have a relatively rested bullpen here. I mean, Drew Smith hasn't gone yet. Ottavino's probably out, but Diaz is available. Lugo is available. You have weapons there.
Trevor May pitched just the first game.
Right, and Trevor May looked really good in the first game too.
Sure did.
And the Padres kind of exhausted some of their weapons yesterday. I mean, Nick Martinez is unavailable. He's been one of their best relievers. Morahone, who had been a really good lefty for them, looked lost. I think he's probably out for tonight. And Steven Wilson was a guy I highlighted in our preview, and they kind of used him in a little bit of a meaningless inning at the end there. So I wonder if he's available as well. But the one guy they haven't touched yet is Josh Hader, and I guarantee you, regardless of the score, he will make an appearance tonight.
He'll be in this game. This is going to be a tough pitching matchup, man. Musgrove is the real deal. He's very capable. Throws a lot of four seams. He basically throws 4 pitches. He has 6, but he throws 4. It's a fastball 25% of the time. It's a slider, a hard, heavy slider at 20%. Then he throws a cutter 20% and a bigger curveball at 20%. So you're gonna see a lot of different style pitches, a lot of breaking balls. He's a competitor, so this will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Musgrove had a chance to help the Padres sweep the Mets back in July, but Pete Alonso got to him with a big 3-run homer that kind of reawoke the Mets offense. But Musgrove has been solid this year. He did have a bad start against the Mets that night, but his final 4 starts of September in 2022, 22 innings, 1 earned run, 27 strikeouts, 3 no decisions along the way. And that's because the Padres offense not really scoring for him. So maybe he's got a little bit of a deGrom-itis there. But in the playoffs in his career, he has 1 run in his life, and that's in 2017 with the Astros. 6 2/3 innings, 6 earned runs, and 3 home runs allowed, mostly as a reliever back then. So it's a very different story for him.
I forgot he was with Houston.
Yeah, man, he got bounced around a little bit, which is surprising because he's a great pitcher.
Yeah,
and
he turned his career solid. He figured it out.
Yeah, and he's definitely the third head of the Padres 3-headed monster. all of them to be not taken lightly because they're all great pitchers. But the Mets do have a solid record on Musgrove. It's a little bit of narrative for him too. He's a San Diego kid, giving them the chance to win their first real playoff series in a long time. And Chris Bassitt, this is kind of really, and unless you want to count 2020, this is really his first playoff start with like a huge crowd and that kind of atmosphere.
Yep, this is big for Bassett going into his, free agent year. My biggest question mark coming in is Marte. Is he going to be okay? I was worried, as we've talked about last pod, is if, after those foul balls, those base hits at his finger, the next day was going to be kind of, banged up and hurting, probably achy. He hit some balls hard yesterday, and this is 3 days in a row after such, over a month of missing baseball. Is he going to be available to just be in that second spot in the lineup, and is he going to be effective? So to me, he's the question mark.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that he's okay, but I also think he's going to leave it all out there, and maybe that means he missed the beginning of the DS if the Mets make it. But it's adamantly clear they need him in there. When he wasn't throwing the ball, he looked solid in right field, still looked great running the bases. It's just that finger, obviously. I'm very interested to see what the Mets lineup looks like tonight, specifically the backstop as well, because I do think there is a question here of Nido or McCann. Nido did get a hit last night, but didn't come up with a big sacrifice bunt when the Mets needed him to. He's taken some good at bats, drove the ball against Darvish to the warning track, but I usually don't do this, but Bassitt's ERA with Nido 4.08 is a full run higher than his ERA with James McCann behind the plate at 3.08. And McCann hasn't gotten a look yet, so I'm curious to see who the Mets decide on going with the backstop.
Yep, it's I am a Nido guy. Nido's got to be, for me, it's even a question. But I get it. I mean, there's an argument to be made. A full run is a big deal. But Nido, apart from, that's not an easy guy to butt off of. Fastballs that are up here, you just want to make sure you don't pop it up. Very uncomfortable. And then the one big question mark for me was he swung at first pitch with Terrence Gore, just pinch running. Let the guy steal, take a couple pitches, and then you can bunt him over or, hit him in to third. And then he swung a first pitch and got him doubled up immediately. So Terrence Gore's appearance is very short-lived.
Yeah. And I thought the deployment of Gore there was great. I mean, Ruff was not going to run the bases well. I think you take 2 on bases from Ruff and you say, see ya, great game tonight. And try and get an insurance run there. So I don't know really what if it was like lack of communication or Nido just kind of jumping the gun there. But I'm sure the Mets will probably learn from that and use him a little bit better tonight. As for Padres hitters against Bassitt, there's not a lot of large sample sizes to go around. Some decent numbers here. I mean, the big one, who is the big scary of this entire series, Josh Bell, once again has great numbers against the starting pitching going tonight. 2 for 5 with 2 home runs and a walk, which is a little bit scary. But for the most part, Bassitt has good numbers against the other guys. Machado's 3 for 12, does have a double and a home run. Cronenworth, who's been largely a non-factor in this series, 2 for 6 with a double. He's been very, very quiet in the 5-hole. I believe they'll probably use him there again because that's kind of been his spot, which could work out for the Mets. Profar has been killing us, 2 for 5 with a walk against Bassitt, and then Juan Soto, the big bad, 2 for 3 with a walk against Bassitt as well. It's going to be the top of the lineup. That's going to be the scary again for sure.
Yep. I don't think he'll face him a third time, regardless of how he's throwing, unless they've got a big lead. I think we'll see, the bullpen come in that third time through the lineup. We talk about maybe the second time, but definitely the third time.
Yeah, for sure.
To shorten this game up. But yeah, we're going to see, hopefully big game Bassitt shows up.
I hope so, man. That's what I want to say. And I mean, it would be really comforting knowing that at least one of our starting pitchers could come out and shove. deGrom had a great outing, but it was clear he didn't have his best stuff. And, this is a team that's going to rely on their starting pitching if they're going to go on a run. So you kind of need some of these guys to start clicking. And hopefully hopefully the lights aren't too bright because, this is going to be an interesting environment for Bassitt, one that he's probably not used to.
Yeah. I mean, it was Atlanta. Atlanta gave everybody a preview, guys that
Yeah.
hadn't been in that, and that was hostile. This is going to be welcoming for the most part, unless you don't perform.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be the opposite. But he made some interesting quotes about playing in New York, how it's a gauntlet, how it is different, and it is. It's different. It's a very what have you done for me lately kind of town, and understandably, these guys want to see you perform, especially in a clutch game. And I think he's learned. He's been through it. Atlanta was bad for everybody, but it was a big piece of experience.
Yes.
I expect him to come out and be sharp and get through this lineup maybe twice and pass the baton.
Yeah, I mean, we could go back and circle that Atlanta series a couple weeks from now and, detail how important it was. And hopefully they're able to get a little bit deeper here after tonight. Big sample size against Musgrove as well for the Mets, specifically Francisco Lindor. I think probably from Cleveland and Houston matchups, I was a little shocked to see 17 at-bats against him. Lindor 6 for 17, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, a walk, but 8 punch-outs. So it's kind of feast or famine there. Marte, who's a bit of a question mark, is 3 for 9. Alonso's 3 for 8 with that big home run he hit in July. Eddie Escobar also has a home run. He's 2 for 8. And Vogelbach was the one I wanted to highlight on the negative side because he will be starting tonight, lefty versus righty. Vogelbach is 1 for 9, 2 walks and 5 strikeouts against Musgrove. And he's a little bit of an X factor because he's going to be in the middle of that lineup for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. 1 for 9. That's not great numbers for the DH, but everybody makes adjustments, and he came up with a huge sac fly last night. Another short swing style.
Yep.
Little choke and poke. He's kind of the X factor right now because he hasn't had any success, but he might slide in behind. I don't know what the lineup's going to be.
Yeah, the lineups could be interesting tonight now that McNeil's kind of back towards the middle of it, and Marte, I'm assuming, will probably play. So the 1 through 4 seems easy, but everything else after that is kind of up in the air a little bit.
I can see the justification of McNeil right behind Pete.
I can.
Moving Escobar down. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting. The good thing is these guys have looked pretty solid at the plate yesterday.
Yeah.
Everybody looked calm and letting the action come to them and doing good stuff. So
yeah, I would love to see McNeil in the 5, maybe Escobar right after him, put the switch option there so you can get 2 lefties in a row after Pete against Musgrove. That would be nice. Maybe Vogie 7, so you get 3 lefties in a row at one point. Canna, I think, could use a little bit of a bump down the order. I think the 5 hole was kind of a little big of a spot for him last night. He worked some really good at bats, but we're not really seeing him drive the ball like he was doing, in late August and early September. But I think having him at the 8 hole down there with, if it's McCann or Nito, could really provide some length to the lineup. But as long as that 1 through 4 is static and solid, I think the Mets have a really good chance.
Yeah, I think that's clear. The top of the order, plus McNeil, wherever the case may be, that they put those guys. Hopefully, again, Marte's finger feels good enough to hold a bat again. Yeah, this is going to be exciting. You got your guys lined up. You've got your Pete looked great. Lindor looked great. This is exciting. This is a winner take all, lose and go home kind of game. This is fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we waited the whole season for this. So, I mean, it's obviously scary in the moment, but I mean, I think these Mets are ready for the moment. And, it's not going to get any easier after this if you win. So buckle up, but remember to enjoy it tonight because it could be the last game of the season or it could be the beginning of an even longer run. And I'm incredibly nervous for it.
Yeah, this is the fun part. This is also the anxiety-ridden part, the lead up. But this is good. This is what you wanted to be. You're going to be in these games that you can, you can feel that high leverage of, what's going to happen with the season. This is it. Is this it? Is this all of 2021? But we're the only slate, the only game on the slate. This is all the drama headed to the Mets. So I'm ready.
Yeah. So if you're at the stadium tonight, make sure you take a picture of the back of Jerry's head, like 80 people have already done and tagged us in. We really appreciate it. Keep continuing to do it. Yeah, I mean, it's a definitely a mixed emotions feeling, but I'm glad that we're getting this game 3 and not recapping the season just yet. Deep breaths, Mets fans. Deep breaths.
All right, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. We'll see you guys tomorrow for hopefully a good recap, not a bad one.